Hello, my friends. Welcome back. How are you? I hope doing okay. Let's start our day with some inspiration. Let's get our inspiration jars out, and then we're just going to take one out, and I'm going to open up the other jar over here that we're going to place the one that we read inside so we don't pick up the same one. I'm not sure if these jars are the same, so I'm hoping we don't get two in the same in a day, because I did put the others into this jar too. Okay, so here we go. What am I living for? If you want to identify me, ask me not where I live or what I like to eat or how I comb my hair, but ask me what am I living for in detail, and ask me what I think is keeping me from living fully for the thing I want to live for. That's beautiful. Thomas Morton. So beautiful. So we're going to close it up. Keep that with us for today. I'm going to put it in this jar here, close it up, and then we'll get on with our project. Okay, I have some glass jars here, and they're all different sizes. This one right here is the biggest one that we're going to use. And this one right here is a little bit smaller than the first one. And then this one gets a little bit smaller. So now we have 3 glass jars. Can anyone guess what we're going to do with these glass jars? I have some sand here, and we're going to set the sand to the side. I'm going to pull the tops off of the jars, and we're going to make an ocean in a jar. So if you want to see me create that, kick back, relax, and let's get to it. I have some resin here, and I'm going to pour some into this cup, and then I'm going to put the other to the side, and I'm going to do something else with it that I need to do in my craft room. But we're not going to put that sand in the resin, and I'll tell you why. If we was to put the sand in the resin and pour it in the glass jar, then it may go down the side of the jar. And we don't want the sand, because the sand has glitter in it, and we don't want the sand getting on the side of the jar, because that wouldn't look pretty in our ocean. So I poured the resin down into the cup, about this much, which I may add a little bit more to this one. I'm not sure. I keep looking at it, judging it. I think we might pour a little bit more in it. I have resin on my other glove, and I don't want it to get on the glass jar. I do eventually wipe it off, though. You want to keep the outside of your jar clean, because if you get resin on it and you let it cure, then your ocean, it's going to show when you get finished with your little glass bottle. So be sure and either clean the glass bottle off when you get finished, you know, so that that resin that you did get on it doesn't cure on it, because I'm telling you, it's going to mess your scene up if you leave it on there. Because when we get done with these glass jars, we want to be able to look at them as actually an ocean appear inside the jar. So now I'm pouring a little bit resin into the other glass jar. And now I have it in all 3 jars. Now we're going to get our sand here, and we're going to get our sand in there with this little funnel. So I'm going to slide the funnel down into the tallest jar. And then I'm going to take some of the sand, and I'm just going to drop it down in the funnel, and then it will travel in the middle of the jar down to the bottom, to the resin. And I did not put a video out yesterday, so I did not feel well yesterday, but I still had to take my mom to the doctor, and it took me a long time because I had to take her to the grocery store too. And when I got home, I tried to edit my video, but I just couldn't press on anymore yesterday. So please don't be upset with me. I had the video done, my project was ready, but I didn't feel well enough to edit it. A lot goes into editing. And I could not push on anymore yesterday, you guys. But I am feeling better today. So, yeah, I'm feeling better today. So we're just going to stick with that. Okay, now I'm in the 3rd jar. Now the funnel is too big to put into this tiny jar. So I'm going to have to hold it with my other hand and then pour the sand in there. Because if I was to put the funnel down in there, then it would hit the bottom of the jar into the resin. And we don't want our funnel getting into the resin because then our sand's going to stick to it, right? Okay, now we have sand in all 3 of the jars. But I'm still eyeballing that first jar. I don't think we have enough sand in it. So I'm going to take this stick right here and I'm going to move that sand around in the resin. But I'm trying to be really careful and not get that sand up on the edges of our jar. And if you do happen to make these little jars and you do happen to accidentally do that, then just get you a little Q-tip with some alcohol on it and go in there and clean the rim of the inside of the jar off before you move any further. Because if you don't, then it's going to cure in there. And it's happened to me before. So it's no big deal. If you get the sand up the side of the jar, just clean it off. You make sure you get it all off in there. And the alcohol will do the trick. You may have to use a couple of Q-tips or whatever you choose to use, but you will get it off inside the glass. Now I'm taking that stick down into the first jar here. And I'm just pushing that sand down to see if I have enough in this jar, because this is our biggest jar. I'm going to spray a little alcohol down in there to pop any of those surface bubbles. It didn't spray the first time, so I had to do it again. And I'm looking at it and making sure I have enough in there. And you see, I got some sand on the side of the jar. So I'm going to take that Q-tip and I'm going to go in there really careful and clean that sand off inside of the jar. And it's natural for you to want to tip that jar a little, you know, but just be mindful of it and keep that jar upright, because if you tilt it, then you're going to have to clean the edge off again. Okay, now I have some inclusions here that are beach themed. They have some pretty shells in here and just some real pretty things that reminds me of the beach. So I'm going to pour them out right here. I'm dusting the glitter off that was in the sand because I don't want it to get in my inclusions, because the next piece I may use these in, I may not want that glitter in there. So I'm making sure there was no more glitter on my table. And I'm just going to fumble through these and pick out what I want. And I like these little, they look like diamonds. I'm going to drop some of them down in here. Oh, and let me tell you, I let these bottles cure a little while. So that is not the resin that we just poured. You need to make sure you let that resin sit and get sticky. Don't let it cure, because if you let it cure, then when you drop your pieces, your shells in there, then they're not going to stick down in the resin. They're going to want to float. So you need to make sure your resin is sticky. So we're back now and that resin is sticky. And you see, that's what I attempted to do the first time. And I didn't cut that out of there to show you. The very first time I tried to drop those shells in there, I realized, oh, wait a minute. I need to let this cure a little while, or what I'm putting in here is not going to stick down at the bottom. So now we've let that resin cure up. And I'm picking through these. And I fast forwarded this part a little bit because it took me a while to pick out the things that I wanted to use in the jar. And I didn't want you to have to sit through all that. But I'm showing you everything that I put in the little jars. And I will hold them up and show them to you too. Inside my hand here is what I'm putting in each jar. And I'm just picking out some little half shells, some little rocks, you know, just some little bits and bobs that I'm going to chunk in here that appears to me to look like the bottom of, you know, like the edge of the sand or part of the sea. And I'm going to take my stick here and I'm going to push those pieces down I'm not going to shove them down in there because I want you to be able to see them. But I want to make sure they're going to be locked in that sand, in that sticky resin. So when we pour our next pour in, it's going to be our blue water. And we don't want our things floating up into the water. So now I'm going to take my stick and I'm going to push these down into that sticky resin so they don't float up on me. And we're going to need to add another shell or something to that big jar. It looks a little empty. And I didn't have any more tiny shells, so I went and got my my little glass bottle out. I got these shells at the Dollar Tree. And they have some beautiful shells in them. And I'm just going to pick out a few and drop down in here. And I want to show you how beautiful those are. I think I have enough now, so I'm just going to scoop these back up. Look at that one. It looks pearl on the top. Just beautiful. These are some beautiful shells. At the Dollar Tree. So now I'm going to scoop them all up, put them back in this little glass jar, and see on the side here I'm showing you where it did come from, the Dollar Tree. Now we're going to take this stick and those things that I added to the jar, I'm going to make sure that they're down in that resin and they will not float up. And there's our little jar. Don't mind my fingers, y'all. I was staining a piece of wood, so I have stain, some of it on my hands. And then here's our little second bottle, and then here's the third bottle, which we can't put a whole lot in this one because it's the tiniest jar. And we want to be able to add something in our water too. Okay, now we're back, and that part has cured. So now we need to add our water for the ocean, and we need to put some fish and some jellyfish and some things like that inside of our bottles to make them look realistic, like it's an ocean in a bottle. So I'm just going to go through these. I got this pack here of fun stuff from Amazon. But I believe it came from Let's Resin. You know, but I purchased it from Amazon, but it's one of Let's Resin's products. And I do have a discount code in my description box if you want to go use it to purchase anything from Let's Resin. It gives you a little bit of a 10% discount, and they give me a little kickback for you using my code. You know, it's not huge, big or anything, but, you know, if you wanted to go treat yourself with something from there, you can use my code. And it's listed in my description box. It's all lowercase, Tammy Blaine. Now I'm just going to cut out some of these fish here. And I have lined over there in front of the bottles the things that I'm picking out to use in the bottle so that I don't get them mixed up. Because I have in my head kind of the designs that I want to put in each bottle. So now we have some resin, and I'm just going to heat it up a little bit, pop some of those bubbles. Then we're going to pour it over into this cup here just a little bit because we only need just a little for our jars. And then we're going to take this Sailboat Blue and Ranger alcohol inks, and I'm going to drop in 2 drops in the cup. And I'm going to stir it up. I probably could have used 3 drops, which I wish I would have because I don't think I got the water blue enough. But it's no big deal. You can still tell that it's blue water, but I just wish I would have went a little bit darker. Okay, I went and put this in my bubble machine, and now I'm back because I didn't want the bubbles to go. I only want the bubbles in these jars to be the bubbles that I put in there because I am going to create some bubbles in the jar because this is, you know, an ocean in a jar, and there are bubbles, you know, on the water. That's a sailboat that I want to try to use in our tallest jar. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make that work, you guys, but I'm going to try to make it look like a sailboat is floating on the top of the water in our biggest jar. So now I have the water in there, our ocean water, And I'm going to put that sailboat right up next to there and see just how much I need to level off the top of the blue water for the sailboat to sit on top of the water. And I think I have just enough in there for the sailboat to appear that it's sitting on top of the water. Now I grab the second little jar, and we're going to put our ocean water inside of that jar. And now we're going to get our tiny jar and put a little bit of the water in that jar. I spray a little alcohol in there before I drop the water in. I started to drop it in there without the alcohol, and then I quickly pulled back. Now I'm going to pull one of my gloves off because I have resin on it. And I'm going to pull these bottles up so that I can hold it with one hand and put our fish and our jellyfish and stuff in our jar. So I need one hand to be ungloved so that I don't get resin on the jar. I had that, I put one of the mermaids in there, and she did not look good in that small jar. So I took her out, and I put some of the, what is that stuff in the bottom of the, coral. I put a piece of coral reef in this tiny jar. Now I'm going to poke it down in there, and that's good. That looks good in that jar. Now we're going to get the middle jar, and I'm going to get one of these white jellyfish right here. I sprayed a little alcohol on it, and now I'm going to take my tweezers and inch it down in there and place it right where I want it. And then I'm going to grab one of these little dolphins, and I'm going to put it down in the jar, and I'm going to face it kind of downward. And then I'm going to get the other dolphin, and I'm going to put it facing the opposite way. And I'm going to try to show you. Now I have the biggest jar. And we're going to put some of the coral reef down in the center of the jar. And you may have to go in and out of that jar a few times, you know, but just be slow while you're doing it. And now I'm taking a whale. It looks like a whale. I'm not real good with all of my fish now, you guys, but I'm pretty sure that's a whale that I just put in there. It's pretty big. And now I'm putting a jellyfish in there. One of the colored jellyfish. It's green. And I can't tilt the jar to the side, so I'm trying to let you see it as best I can. And now I'm taking a smaller fish. I'm not really sure what this one is. It may be a shark. A baby shark is what it looks like. And I'm going to poke it down in there on the opposite side of that whale. And that's our sailboat. We got to leave our sailboat. Okay, now we're back and our bottles have cured. And I'm going to spray a little bit of alcohol inside our biggest jar. And I'm going to drop in some clear resin. And then we're going to take our sailboat and we're going to put it on the top here. And I'm going to stir it up a little bit and get some bubbles going in there to make it look like the bubbles are underneath the boat. I don't know how this is going to turn out, y'all. I'm just winging it. Now I'm going to put some clear resin inside of this bottle because now we want to add some white caps to the top of our ocean. And I put a little bit too much resin in there. So I'm taking my Q-tip and I'm dabbing it in there, just getting a little bit out. And now I'm going to add a little bit in the little tiny jar. Just a little drop because that jar's so tiny. And I put a little bit too much in that one too. So I dabbed my Q-tip in there. Now we're going to go ahead and top that jar off. Now this one, we need to put our white caps in it. So I'm going to take some of the Sinker White Let's Resin that you put in the alcohol inks, the Sinker White. And I get a little cup and I put a few drops in it. And I take a Q-tip and run that Q-tip around in it and dab it in my jar and twirl it around. And then that gives our ocean some white caps. Now I'm going to add a few little drops of clear resin on the top of that. And stir it up a little bit more and add a little bit more of the Sinker White until I'm happy with the color of the white caps that I want on top of the ocean. And I'm just adding a little bit more. I'm just not happy with how it's looking. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and dip that cap, that top in the resin, and I'm going to go ahead and put that lid on that jar. Now we got to let the jars cure again. Now we're back and we're ready to finish off that third jar, that top jar that we put the sailboat in. We need to add our white caps on top of the ocean in this jar. So we're going to take a little look at our jar so far. Do you see the sailboat right there? And the bubbles that I created underneath it? Can you see it? And there's our whale. And our jellyfish and our coral reef. You can see that sailboat so good, you guys. I did not think that was going to work, but it looks really cute in there. Let me get a paper towel and put it up next to here. And I'm going to turn it so you can kind of see everything in there. See, there's our little baby shark, coral reef, the big whale, the jellyfish, and there's the sailboat. You can see the sailboat on each turn that you make. That looks awesome. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a few drops of resin in here, and we're going to go ahead and create our white caps on top of our ocean inside of this jar. I'm going to get some of that Sinker White Let's Resin on my Q-tip, and I'm going to stir it into the top of the jar, into the resin, until I'm satisfied with the color and how it looks. Okay, that looks good. Now we're going to take our top here, and I'm going to get that resin. We're going to dip that top into the resin, and then we're going to slide it on the jar, and then that way when it cures, that top is not coming off of that jar. Now, the little screws that were screwed in top of these, I unscrewed them out of there. I don't want those in there. So I took all of them out of our jars. And what we're going to do is, or maybe I didn't take them all out. I took one out to see if I was going to like this. Yeah. So, you see, I'm going to unscrew that out of that top right there. And I'm going to set it to the side. Now let's get the third one out. I'm going to screw it out of that top, that cork top. They just screw right out. And then I took these tops from my other little glass bottles, the little gold tops, and we're going to add this mermaid, this dolphin tail, and this starfish onto the tops of our jars. Okay, so now this is what I would rather trade that screw out with. I want this to be the top of our jar. And I took those off of my little glass jars because I have a bunch of them. So I'm not going to miss 3, you know. So we're going to go ahead and see how that looks. And I like that a lot better than the screws being in there. And our dolphin tail and our mermaid and our starfish is gold hardware. So I wanted the hardware to match. Now I'm going to take my my string here. I forget what this hemp I forget what it's called, y'all. Somebody help me out in the comment section below. It's on the tip of my tongue. But I'm taking that and I'm going to wrap it around the top of the jar 3 times. And I'm going to cut it off. And then I'm going to tie it into a knot. And then I'm going to cut off the excess. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame right there. You see me tying it. And now I'm going to go and tie it again to get it in a tight knot. Right like that. Make sure I get it real tight. And then I'm going to cut off the excess. And then I'll burn the tips of those with a lighter. But you don't see me do that here. And then I'm showing you the jar. You can see the coral reef in there. It looks really cute. Okay, now I'm back and I have all 3 jars with the hemp on the top of the jars. And I just need to fix this 3rd bottle here. Oops, it slipped up a little bit. There we go. And you can stick a little bit of glue on those so they won't move. I'm going to use UV resin. So now I'm going to take UV resin and I'm going to put it on the top of the jars here, on the corks. And then I'm going to take my little bales here and I'm going to drop them on the top of the corks. And I take my tweezers and pick up that second one because it's easier. And I'm moving that UV resin all around on the top of that cork. And then set that bale right down on top. Pick up the bale. Move the resin around on the top of the cork. The UV resin. Making sure it's covered the cork. And then I'm going to set that bale right on the top. Making sure I get it straight. And now I'm going to take my UV light and I'm going to cure those tops right on up. Now we're back and our tops are cured. Now I'm going to get out my little jump rings here. And I'm going to pull out 3 of them because we have 3 jars here. And I'm not sure what size we're going to need in the jump ring, but we're going to try this one first. So I'm going to go ahead and open the jump ring. And these jump rings are nice jump rings, so you do need 2 pairs of pliers to open them. I don't like to use the jump rings that are too easy to open. And I'm going to take this mermaid and I'm going to slide her on there. And this jump ring is not going to work. We're going to have to move up a size in our jump ring. So I'm going to scoot those to the side and get out the size up from those. And I'm going to open that jump ring up with both of my pliers. And the proper way to open a jump ring is with 2 pairs of pliers. But I don't always properly do it. Now I'm going to close that jump ring. And then I'm going to hold it up and show you. And that's our little starfish charm hanging off of our ocean in a jar. Now let's get another jump ring, and I'm going to open this one up. And we're going to slide our dolphin tail through it, and we're going to put our dolphin tail on the middle jar. I'm going to scoot it around here where I can close that jump ring. Okay, I got it closed up. And now I'm going to show you. And there's the, oh, that's the mermaid. That's not the dolphin tail. I guess I put the, is that the big bottle? No, I put the dolphin tail. Yeah, that is the big bottle. It's just in the middle. Okay, now I have the dolphin tail. And I'm going to open my jump ring, put that on here, slide it in there, and then we're going to get that closed right up. Yeah, that's the middle jar right here. So the mermaid is on the tallest jar. The tallest jar ended up in the middle this time. I had them set in, you know, small, medium, large through the whole video, but somehow that big one got in the middle. But here they are. What do you guys think? Do you like them? You can set these up on a little shelf in your bathroom or somewhere, and people love to look at them. They are so cute and so unique. Well, it's about that time, my friends. If it's not hot where you live, then please, if it's hot where you live, then please stay hydrated and out of the heat. And I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to end this with saying God bless you. Goodbye, my friends.